You mentioned, let's see, you mentioned beautiful and profound system of morality, veiled in allegories and illustrated by symbols. We're gonna talk more about this. What is this hidden knowledge? But before we do that, another Bible verse for you. I'm trying to link the Bible to this story here. So Genesis 3:22, another interesting number, skull and bones. Then the Lord God said, "Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now he might stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever." So Dan, you mentioned about this knowledge, what Freemasonry is. They're known for this knowledge. They're known for having secret knowledge.
Hmm.
Brother laid out for us. What is this hidden knowledge in Freemasonry?
Yeah, I love the skull and bones reference there with 322, because I'm not, I'm not a member of that, but I believe that is what they're alluding to. Because all these occult systems, whether it's the Kabbalah, tarot cards, Freemasonry, Satanism, you name it, there's a lot of other types of cults out there. They're all pointing to the same occultic knowledge. And it took me kind of digging in myself to figure out what that knowledge actually was. It wasn't recognized and really understood among most Masons. And what I found is it led to a thing called natural law. And when you think natural law, think of it as like scientific law that governs the morality that God has built into the very fabric of creation. So when we think of morality or we think of right and wrong, we tend to think that that's an opinion, that there's religious persuasion, for example, Christianity, Islam. But at the end of the day, people feel as though morality is sort of up to the beholder, eyes of the beholder, if you will. Well, what natural law is teaching is that is silliness, that morality is governed just as real as physics, just as real as gravity. So if I walk to a cliff and it's 100-foot drop and I say, I don't believe that if I jump off, I'm going to fall to the bottom, it really doesn't matter what I believe. I am indeed going to fall to the bottom because God has built into the fabric of the universe a thing called gravity. That's a whole nother conversation in and of itself, whether gravity's real or not, but trend
Yeah.
with me with what I'm saying here, right? So when it comes to morality, what's being taught in the lodge is this. It doesn't matter what you think. Here it is. There's 7 natural law principles.
Interesting
There's,
number there.
it is a very, it's the number of completion, if I'm not mistaken. So the very first one is mentalism. So this is this idea that everything starts off as a thought before it can manifest itself in reality. Thoughts create things and conditions. And we are responsible for everything we create because we are responsible for everything we think. That's simple. The second one is correspondence. That which is above is similar or like what is below. The macro and the micro, reflections of each other. As one goes, the other goes. It's the understanding of natural law and how that affects us individually. Correspondence. And the third one that you got is called vibration. There is no such thing as things that are completely at rest or non-motion. There is nowhere in the world where anything is completely at rest. Everything is in existence, is in motion at the microcosm level. So even if you look at like a table, for example, that's standing still, if you zoom in far enough, you'll see that the particles that make up that table are actually vibrating. The next one is polarity. Everything has a dual nature to it. Everything has its poles and its opposites. They are some is in nature, but in different degrees. So left and right, the yin and the yang, if you will. You see this stuff in Eastern religion, right? You see some of this stuff in the Bible. You see some of this stuff in Buddhism, Hinduism. There is a macro religion that all religions sort of agree to some extent. The next one is called rhythm. Everything flows out and in and has tides. Think about the way that God created the universe. 6 days on, 1 day off. 6 days on, 1 day off. So we got a right swing, which will match the left swing and vice versa. Everything ebbs and flows. Now, with this particular law, it's believed that this is really a natural tendency, but it really can be overcome. And we don't have time to really get into what that looks like right now, but I just want you to note that. The next one is cause and effect. A lot of people are familiar with this. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. This is what we know as karma, karmatic law. What goes around comes around. So free will is operating within parameters of natural law, and there is a time gap or lag which makes it difficult for us to identify. And what I mean by that is when we do a thing, good or bad, by the time it gets to the outer circles and back to you, there's a time lapse. And so we don't always realize when we get bit in the butt that that was because we put out that negative energy, I don't know, a month and a half ago. Let me break down cause and effect. Cause is the mental world. This is what can be changed. This is how we think, how we feel, how we behave. And then effect is the physical manifestation of it. There's nothing we can do about it. It's already here. And then the last one is gender, both masculine and feminine. We can see this in the brain. We got right brain, which is feminine, and left brain, which is masculine or logic. You also got masculine music or creativity for feminism. We just go, the list goes on. And this is going to come back to connect in just a bit here. So all these principles, they're all linked to what's called the seed of life, or quote unquote sacred geometry. And what it teaches you is how to apply these things. Now, I won't get into that. I always get asked that question. Well, I don't understand. How do I use these tools? The goal of this podcast is not to teach you how to use them, because I believe that would be sinful. I just want you to be aware of this is what's being taught, so you're not being blindfolded and hoodwinked. And then there's a lost principle, an eighth one. Infinity, the number 8 is actually to the side, is, the symbol of infinity.
Absolutely.
So this is the infinity, the lost principle, the outer circle, the outer shell, if you will. The principle is the 8th principle. Some people call it the generative principle or the governing principle. It's got a lot of names. But at the end of the day, this is care. It's where is your focus? What do you care about? This is what you're going to feed, is what's going to grow. You follow what I'm saying? And in the Masonic world, in the very first degree you get, they give you a ruler. It's got 24-inch ruler, and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? Well, it's emblematic of the 24 hours in the day. We're all given the same 24 hours in the day, but what do you care about? What do you prioritize with that 24 hours? The last thing I'll touch on here, and we'll take a breath, is natural law. Ultimately, when you understand natural law, what happened at the garden in 322 is what's called consciousness. So this is when the heart, mind, and action all come together collectively. It's called your consciousness. And it's in the shape of a triangle for a reason. It's the strongest shape in nature.
Wow.
That's what I got, brother.
That was pretty deep. I'm definitely going to listen to this again myself. So much there to unpack. It's interesting because I came from a natural law understanding as well.